All right, we'll call to order the meeting of Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, October 6, 2022. Present at the front table to my far left is Jessica Vitale, a voting member.
Good evening.
Next to Jessica is Ed McGargy, a voting member.
Hello.
My left, Ernie Angelos, our solicitor.
Morning or afternoon.
My immediate right, morning or afternoon, which one is it?
Evening. One of the third's the charm.
My immediate right is Bill Rhodes, a voting. Next to Bill is Jesse Poynton, a voting member.
Evening.
Way down, Kelly Kirk, the code's queen. And Margie Buchanan, our right-hand woman. We have one continued case, two new cases. However, after we do the pledge, I'll read a few continuances into the record. Want to lead us, Billy?
Sure. Please rise and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. With regard to the continued case, Z22-22, Christopher and Jill Welsh, owners of 115 Waterview Circle, we received a continuance request, undated. It reads, Ms. Buchanan, I'm writing to request a continuance in the above zoning variance application. I waive any time constraints imposed on the township under section 908 of the PA Municipalities Planning Code. I don't need to read the rest of this, do I? So with that, this case is continued to, what's our next hearing date, Cal? 20th, right?
Well, they wanted December.
Oh, yeah. What's our hearing date in December, Cal? You know? I think it's December 1.
Yeah,
It's December 1.
December 1st.
With that, that case is continued to December 1. The first new case, Z22-24, New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, doing business as AT&T Mobility. We received a continuance request addressed to Ernie Angelos. Any zoning application. So did they request a specific date?
I don't believe they did in a letter, but the soonest that we can do it, which is I believe what they wanted, that we can properly advertise will be November 3rd.
Yeah,
They should have just waived, shouldn't they?
they did, but they waived up until the time.
Okay, so that case is continued to our November 3rd hearing. Which leaves us with Mr. Brown, I presume. So our next case is Z22-25, Michael and Teresa Brown, owners of 305 Windsor Park Lane, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2209-0290900, who seek variance from the provisions of section 182, step 207C51, to encroach into the required 30-foot front yard setback by 3 feet and to construct a 10-foot by 26-foot covered porch and by 4 feet to extend an existing garage by 12 foot by 12 foot 6 inches. Property is on R5 and located in the first ward. I need to swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And your full name and address for the record?
Michael Edward Brown, 305 Windsor Park Lane, Havertown, PA.
So, you submitted an application to the township. There are certain items attached to your application. If you want them to be considered during the course of this case, they need to be marked as exhibits and moved into the official. So, from looking at your application, I see a drawing, impervious surface computation. Let me see, is there anything else?
A picture of the existing portico,
Yeah. So, the way exhibits are typically marked, Michael, are A for apple, and then a numeric scheme. So, I'm gonna pre-mark these for you, okay?
Well, thank you. I didn't bring a
And
pen.
then you'll identify them, or I'll identify and you'll confirm. And then I'll admit them into the record. So, but you have to correct me if I misstate you.
All right,
So this plot plan that you submitted
yes,
will be A1,
okay,
is that okay?
yes, sir. That was just some talliations.
And are these your
No,
calculations?
no, that was another program.
Okay, so the front only. The back
Yes, thank you.
is not applicable. A2 is your impervious surface
Impervious,
calculation.
yes.
And A3 is a photograph of the front of your house
Existing home, yes.
with the existing portico. And I know you want to move them into the record, so they're admitted,
Yes, please.
A1 through A3. Now, do you have any other exhibits, any photo or anything? you
Well,
want to report?
I did some Google Earth of some other properties locally that had less than the 30 foot. I don't know if that's necessary or not. I made 6 copies of them all. I wasn't able to do the dimensions. I'm not that proficient at it, but based on what I could figure out, front of my house is 37 feet, and there's 2 homes in the area, around 22 foot, give or take. So I don't know how stringent this is going to be, whether I need to give that information to you.
You may as well. So how many photos are there?
There's 3, and I made 6 copies. Is that right?
Thank you. So we'll just mark. I'm sure you're going to request that we just mark these 3 photos, which are or Google Earth maps, which are stapled together in one exhibit, right?
Yes.
So A4 is 3 pages, Google photos, 305 Windsor Park Lane, 232 Glen Ridge Road, and 1404 Windsor Park Lane.
Yes.
Now that we have the formalities out of the way, please tell us a bit about what you would like to do and why.
Okay, I'd like to bump the front of the house out. First of all, the portico needs repair. I don't know if you're familiar with those porticos. The downspouts in the column, I've already replaced one already, and I hate spending a few $1,000s or something like that and get nothing out of it. We live, I don't know if you know where that property is. We literally look over like Barnaby's and all that. I bumped the back of the house out years ago, put a patio in and a deck. The road noise is ridiculous back there. You can't even use it. So my thoughts are to come out front. If I do a porch, I have a place to sit out, and if I can bump the garage out a little bit, I can park a car in it. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I mean, I've been here since 1980, 42 years. We live in Haverford Township, and we have kids living here still. And I'd like to stay in the area, but I think what I want to do with this property would really be enhance what I want here.
It would really be enhanced with a lot of.
Me staying in the area? I don't know. I forget what I say. Yeah, it's all right.
It'll be enhanced by, with.
But what,
with
for
I-
for the work done would enhance me being able to stay here. So when I did the Google Earth, I know I didn't give you dimensions. I have a scale rule, but it doesn't really work that to scale. I checked it again today. The front of my house is 37 feet. My property line's pinned there. I pulled a string line and I used the arc of the lot with the pavement, and the numbers are good. And when I looked at these other properties, I walked the neighborhood a lot. My property is 5/8 of an inch on the scale. Those other 2 properties are 3/8. It's roughly 7 feet per eighth, so 3 times 7 is around 22 foot, both of those properties are. So I'm 37, I'm trying to go, an extra 3, and you can see on that plot plan, my pulled dimensions.
So it looks like your next door neighbor at 301 has a front covered.
He does, yes. And he's probably, I checked him, he's a little less than 30 feet. I looked at that today. And, yeah, I know this stuff's probably been built for 30 years, but those other two properties don't look that old, and they definitely are, I'm telling you, 22 to 25 feet from the property line.
So if you were permitted to construct the front porch, would your porch be closer to the street than your neighbors, or would they be lined up?
You know, it's hard to tell there, if I call you Bob, because the street's an arc, and they all kind of are supposed to be perpendicular to, but, so I can't say. I think his porch is 8 foot. I did look at that.
But if yours was built, would it be in line?
Real close. I mean, I can't say it's going to be exactly right, and with the arc, the way that lot is my lot goes away from my neighbors, it grows. If you look on you can see right on that drawing there.
So on A1, that's the outline of your lot.
Yes. And then that plot, that aerial Google shows you the way the lot, how you follow the pavement, the way the radius of the lot.
It's not a regularly shaped lot.
Not at all.
Therefore, it is an irregular.
Right, and that's when I pull the string lines to the pins, I mimic the radius of the lot, and that's where I pull my numbers from.
Now that we got the preliminaries out of the way, Bill, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so, looking at, you did not submit any drawings, but do you have, any depictions of what the front of the house will look like?
I didn't do anything because I didn't know where this was going.
Okay.
All right, I mean,
Fair enough.
I've been in construction
Right.
45 years, and I mean, I have a little bit of knowledge, but I couldn't see going to the trouble of knowing what I want to do, so I sat here.
Okay,
But essentially, it'd be, a covered porch coming out, 2/3 of the house, and it'd be a shed type roof. I don't have rooms for any kind of A's there. And basically, the garage would be a little bit further out. And it might change. It might be, depending on the lumber layout, it might be 9'6" on the porch, and the garage might be 12 foot, or 11'6". I don't know how, not quite where I'm at yet.
so, looking at A4, the second picture, 232 Glen Ridge Road, why did you identify that one for us? Obviously, we're only getting an aerial view from this, so it's a little hard to tell what it is that we're looking at below the roof line.
Okay, well, what happened there, it looks like they bumped an addition out, maybe where the garage was. I mean, I walked the neighborhood and I happened to be looking. And they were the two, and there's other ones, they were the most obvious. I mean, I probably had another 3 or 4 that I didn't bother even bringing up.
And your house originally had a garage.
Yes,
what happened to the garage?
previous owner took some out to make the kitchen a little bigger, 30 years, 40 years ago.
So you have like a half-deep garage right
About
now?
8 foot deep, yes.
And and that, you're going to bump out the garage
12 feet,
12 feet?
yes.
And that's going to be, the front of the garage will be flush with the front of your porch?
No, the garage
gonna
would be
extend
2 foot
further.
piece. I'm gonna bring the garage out 12, porch 10.
Okay? And do you have examples of where anyone in the neighborhood has done that specific thing already?
I see additions, I mean, it might be a lot of porches, I mean, half the neighborhood has porches. A lot of people just put an overhang where the garage was. They built, they came out across the whole house. I'm trying to, get a garage out of it, that's my goal.
And so sometimes the applications that we get for where someone wants to encroach into the front yard setback, and in new development, there's an obligation to provide this board with a median or an average of the front yard setbacks within 300 feet of your house, so that we can see if you were to bump out, will you be sticking, quite a bit further out than the average?
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you have a sense? I know you said you
It's
didn't
not,
take
yeah,
measurements,
it's
but-
not, I don't think it's going to be obtrusive to a point where it's going to look like I don't think it'll stick out. I mean, the next door neighbor's got the porch, and I'll be in line with him. I'll be a little bit further out, of course.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just trying to start with something, if it's got to get, I mean, it doesn't, for me to go out 10 foot on the garage, doesn't really get me anything. I mean, I've got a truck, pickup truck, I have a van, and I have a car. So nothing's going to fit in there, really.
So by your estimation, at 301, which is the most immediately adjoining property,
Right.
Which appears to have a porch along the entire front of the house.
Correct.
Wall or edge to edge.
Yes,
And that's about 8 feet out from the front edge of the house?
yes.
Did you measure that one?
I took a quick number on it.
Okay. So your porch would run from the left edge of your house right up to the new garage, and that would be 10 feet sticking
Yes.
out. And even at 10 feet, by your calculation, you'd be in the front yard setback by approximately 3 feet, right?
I'm
Is that right?
37, yes. 3 foot on the porch.
Yeah.
And and again, that's a radius lot. As you get away from the neighbor 301, that lot actually grows. So the corner, even though I wrote 37 to that left dimension, it's probably close to 40 because again, the radius of the lot is gaining. So the end of that lot, I might be right within the 30 feet.
Right. But you barely drew it to the closest point.
I did my best
Yeah.
I pulled,
Yeah.
pulled
That's
string
fair.
lines, pulled tapes and everything.
And you said currently the water that drains, well, let me ask, so what would the roof look like? You said it's gonna be a shed roof over the
A
garage?
shed style. I might
So-
put a net in the middle, I don't know yet. I'm just trying to, I need to start somewhere, so.
So, and that would be perpendicular to the roof line of the house? That shed, it would be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a
And
shed
then
roof, yeah.
the roof over the patio would be just continue, like your neighbors, slope down?
It'd be the
But-
same angle, I'd run the same angle as the porch, I have plenty of room. There's 13 feet to the sill.
Okay.
So over 12 feet, I have plenty of fall.
And you're above your current portico, or where you have your columns, the roof water
The
drains?
downspouts in the column.
In the
And I've
column.
already replaced one, and I've put a PVC pipe in there. I don't know.
Okay.
And nobody does sheet metal like that anymore either.
And so, one thing that we do need to worry about is what you're gonna do with water.
I've got underground lines running to the left of the house. You look there, I put them in, and I got one on the right side. I have no problem with that.
So if the gutters and for the new patio roof and the roof over the garage would be tied into your existing drain lines?
Porch will go underground, the garage will just go to the driveway.
Garage go to driveway.
And there's plenty of fall in that garage.
Right, and your property slopes downhill when you're looking at the house away from your driveway?
Quite a bit, yeah. There's a lot of fall from the front of the garage to the driveway. There's never any standing water there.
Okay, I don't have any other questions, thank you.
Well, thanks.
How important is the garage portion of this?
It make a big difference. I mean, I have a shed out back, and, I keep a snow blower back there, the lawnmower, and it's really a pain in the neck not having access to something in the front. We're getting older, I'd like to be able to put a car in the garage. I mean, that's probably my biggest peeve. We used to live on Washington Avenue years ago, and, a two-car garage, it was nice to put the cars away. So that's my biggest goal, is trying to be able to put a car in the garage. I know it may not sound like much, but, yeah.
And couldn't you recover your garage, the original garage?
The people before, it's like part of an eating kitchen. There's two pantries in there. I'd lose, what, 8 foot of the garage, 8 foot of the kitchen in there now that they put in. And there's a stairwell to the basement too. I mean, whoever did it, they made a lot of changes there.
Jessica?
Is 10 feet the minimum that you need for the porch depth?
I'd like to go 10. I mean, again, when I lay the lumber out, I might be 9.6. I don't know yet, 10-foot rafters. I don't know for sure. I want to shoot for a number. If I need to scale back for, how the lumber works out, I will. Same with the garage. I mean, if I say 12-foot, 14-foot rafter, I don't know yet. I have to start somewhere, so,
And how long have you been in the house for?
2002.
I don't have any other questions right now.
Ed?
Yeah, the question would be, you started off, I'm hearing that the reason you want to do this is, one, you want to gain back a garage, so it would be for your benefit because you're getting older. The other thing you said is you want the new porch because of the noise in the back. Could you explain?
Well, we can't use the back of the house. I mean, you can't believe the noise down there. We get the motorcycle sitting at Old Westchester Pike coming out of Barnaby's revving up. I mean, it's a valley there. So at least we could sit out front and not, I got a big patio, a deck off the back. All we do is cook on the deck, and we wouldn't even use the back of the house. I mean, if you're not over there, you wouldn't know how bad it is. We get fire engines going down to the, whatever that senior center is, that gets its false alarms. It's annoying.
Okay.
And Blue Route traffic.
Well, I hear the hum in the Blue Route, but it's all the traffic on Westchester Pike. And, these little rocket cars with the exhaust and the motorcycles from Barnaby's. I mean, it's bad.
And can you get an electric motorcycle so you?
Oh, see you, biker? I guess I shouldn't have
I'm only
said that.
kidding. Ed's no biker.
On A1, the plot plan here, on the front of the property, you show a radius line with a lot of dots. What is that?
I'm sorry, say it again.
You have a radius line in front like that.
Oh, that's just hash mark. I don't know. I had a friend of mine do this on the program, and I got what he gave me, and I try to mark up what I thought was pertinent.
Okay, but are you measuring from the curb line or the edge?
No, I have pins on that property. They're just inside the pavement, probably a foot or so in from the sidewalk. I have pins that whoever built the house when it was built. So when I staked it with a string line, follow the radius of the pavement, and that's how I pull my numbers.
Okay, but you don't have the right of way on there?
Well, what's your right of way here?
You don't know what the right of way is. It's on your deed, so.
Well, the only right of way I think is to the left of the property. That's where all the FiOS is run.
Well, no, the right of way for the roadway.
I was told 30 foot in from the front of the property was what I needed to work with. I mean, I don't know if that's correct or not. I mean, this is new to me. Is
Ellie,
that
could you?
correct?
Are you benchmarking that off the edge of the road or the center line of the road?
I'm sorry,
Front yard setback?
the front yard setback is from the right of way, from the edge of the right of way.
The edge of the right of way?
Yes.
So you took it from the inside of the sidewalk, or how did you measure?
Just towards the house, about a foot in, I have pins on both sides of the property. I'm assuming that's the property boundary, front and sides. So I pulled a string line, follow the radius of the sidewalk, pull my numbers. I mean, I don't know what more you want me to do. I mean, tell me and I'll do it, but
The pins would likely be more accurate than just trying to measure from most people can't find their pins, which is why we have them measure the right of way from the center of the road. But if he actually found his pins, that should be an accurate measurement of where the boundary line is.
Well, okay. Would your boundary line go to your end of your easement? Or you can have your property still be in the sidewalk and you have to maintain the sidewalk.
Depending, I mean, the right of way generally is at, like, sometimes it's right at the sidewalk. Usually it's a little bit in.
Right.
Sometimes it's 6 feet in, sometimes it's right at the edge. If he's saying it's right at the edge, that seems reasonable. This neighborhood isn't super old, where you'd see like the boundary line to the center of the street. And then having an overlap of the right of way and the boundary line of the property. But either way, it's measured from the right of way, which in this case, I'm confident is at the pins.
Okay. Next question would be, have you looked at trying to put the garage in the rear of the property?
I thought about it, and I know I could do it, but I'd have 100 foot of snow to get rid of, and I'd have to cut another driveway in to the left looking at the house. I thought that's more intrusive, adding another driveway for street parking. So I understand what you're saying. I thought about it. I just don't, I don't think it's not what I want to have to be dealing with.
Okay, gotcha. If you were granted this easement, would you enclose the porch? Would you agree to a condition not to enclose the porch, I should
I
say?
don't know yet. I hadn't thought about that, so I walked around, and I know I approached this as an open porch. Maybe down the road, I'd like to, maybe. I'm not saying
Well, if there was a condition, if this was approved, that said you could not enclose it, is that something you would agree to?
I'd like to not have to be held to that, but, I mean, if there's any way I can do it, I mean, I will. But I'm just saying that I hadn't even thought about it. But I don't know what, last day or so, I spent more time on this, and I thought, well, it might be nice, but
Well, just to be honest, one of the things we have to look for is a hardship, and I'm not hearing that currently. Proving the garage extension is not something that I've ever seen done here before. And so that is another slot against you. And then the porch itself, yes, we've approved porches, and it usually, you could see a porch in the neighborhood, but they may have come with hardships that maybe there was water in their basement, maybe there was a tree they wanted to protect. There were lots of different hardships that they might come in with, and we're not hearing that now. So these are things that may not allow me to vote in the favor of.
I'm trying to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not trying to make up excuses to be a hardship. So that's why I came in with just what I thought would help me. As far as the porch, it was only recently I thought about closing it in. I probably don't need it. My wife's always complaining about how big the house is too big anyway. So, to have a nice open porch, a little bit quieter would be nice. And like I said, my neighbor keeps the snow blower in the wintertime on his porch, and he just jumps out and goes.
Yeah, the thing that we're supposed to be watching out for is encroachment into the setbacks that the township commissioners have established. And just like somebody filled in your garage before you bought the property, now you build the garage and they could fill that in, and then somebody else will come in with a garage. So next thing you know, you have no front yard setback. So these are the things, it's incremental taking of the lot above and beyond what is allowed by the ordinance. So, okay, that's all
Jesse?
Let's see. Most of my questions have been asked, but I think I have a couple others. I guess further to Ed's question about doing it, on paper, it looks like you could fit a garage on the left side of the house. Is there anything about the topography that would also, besides the long driveway, is there
Don't
anything
you
else?
need 8-foot setback? That lot gets lost there. So I gave you all the dimensions, the corner's 19 feet. So if see the 19 dimension? If I go out, say 10 feet, 12 feet, I'm less than 8 foot to the property line.
Right, if you went up to the 8 foot, you could go 11 feet to the left, I guess.
I'm really limited. I mean, and now I thought it'd be worse cutting another driveway in. I mean, I'm just trying to look at, people's park on the street. I put a driveway in, it's one less parking spot.
Right. Is there anything about the slope of the property on
It does
the
drop
left side?
off. It basically starts dropping off at the very front and it just takes off to the back.
Another requirement is that you have to have 2 off-street parking spaces. So if you were granted this and you were able to use the garage, would you still have room in your driveway to park a car? Maybe referring to
I can fit
photo-
at least, I have a pretty good sized truck and I can put the truck in front of the garage with another 6 feet still. So I already looked at that.
Okay, so in photo A3, where I can see there's a basketball net, you can fit there's a car parked kind of where you're proposing the garage, but there's a basketball net.
Yeah, I get 4 cars in that driveway now.
Okay,
All right, and one's a good sized truck with an extension on it. So and the probably Google Earth might show that better. Yeah, maybe that's what you're looking at.
okay, so to be clear, you can put 2 cars side by side without having to move
Oh,
one.
easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, that's a requirement. The last question, I guess, was about on the porch. Would you propose any utilities on the porch?
I might rough in electric. I got to move the gas meter to put the porch in. I already talked to Pico about that. When I go to do that, I'll probably stub a conduit into the basement to get power out there.
So the only utility would just be electric?
Yeah, I'd put
light and an
GFI,
outlet.
lighting of GFIs out there.
Okay. Would you need any kind of railing or anything else on the porch?
I'd probably put a decorative rail. I mean, it's ground level, so I don't think it requires railings or anything.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how high off the ground
Yeah,
it
it
is.
would be 6 inches at the most.
And I know you said you haven't gone as far as having it drawn up architecturally. With what you're thinking in your head, what kind of materials are you thinking? Would it be similar to your neighbors in
Yeah,
character?
I would either do aluminum or vinyl columns, I'll match the shingles to the roof, and I would probably cap, whatever, everything would just try to blend in.
Okay.
And I might even try to do the garage in brick, I don't know yet, to try to make it look more like it was built that way.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
So, Michael, is it your desire to have an entry from inside the garage directly into the house?
No, I'm gonna put a garage door possibly onto the porch. That'll give me covered area into the garage. I thought about this, and I think that's the best way to go. And that, again, allows me to go in the garage and get in the house without being in the weather.
By going into the garage, then through the door onto the porch, and then in the
Yes.
front door. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, there was one more I had. Referring again to A1, the garage, you're proposing, and I know you said the final dimensions you're still working on, but you show a dimension of 12'6" for the width of the garage.
Yes.
Which sets it slightly wider than the existing house.
Okay, I held the 8 foot at that 12 foot, is how I determined that.
Okay.
And that's what I did. I went out to the 12 foot, pulled 8 foot to the string line, and put that corner at that. And that's the setback is 8 foot.
And so the garage would then have a bump. Is that so that you could,
Put cabinets or something. I mean, it just gives me a little bit more to store stuff.
that's exactly what I was wondering about. Thank you.
So just, I understand since I'm not an architect. What you're planning to do is you're gonna bring this garage out 12 feet from the existing front edge of the house and extend it to the side of the house, on the right side of the house, by how much?
2'6".
2'6".
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. 6 inches. And that would still preserve the 8 foot minimum side yard at
Correct.
the closest point. of
Correct, to
that-
the neighbor's house.
Yeah, and then, but you'd still maintain your 24-foot setback or side yard on the other side.
Well, whatever's left there, still there, yeah.
And so it's really, you don't need a side yard variance, it's just the front yard.
Correct.
And how wide is the garage if you, as proposed, it's now 12 feet, 6 inches?
Yeah, the existing's around 10. They're 9 foot doors, so you're looking at 10 foot inside a garage. So that 2'6" makes it 12'6" as opposed to 10 foot wide.
Got it. Thank you.
We're gonna take a 2-minute break off the record. Please, Jeff. And waiting for the red light.
And we're on.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Michael? Jesse, Bill,
I do not.
Ed, Jessica?
No.
Okay. Michael, I understand, and my sense from the board is that they understand your point about needing a front yard sitting area, like the porch. The garage, I mean, it seems like there are other options, like a detached garage on the side of the house, in the back of the house. And, a variance has a fairly high bar for approval. I mean, there has to be a hardship, a need, basically. So, if, for example, God forbid, you were in a wheelchair and you needed a place to pull the car in the front of the house and enter, for some reason. But, I sense that some board members are struggling with the hardship for the garage. So I just want to ask you one more time, how important is the garage as opposed to just the porch like your neighbor has?
Well, let me ask you a question. If I stayed within the 30-foot setback, can I bring a garage out that far? I mean, am I here with the idea, the problem is I'm encroaching on a 30-foot setback.
Correct.
So I push the garage back and stay within the 30 feet, I can do what I want.
Well, your hardship is noise. The garage has nothing to do with noise.
He's saying
Okay,
if he's within the
If I'm
setback.
within the 30, if I'm holding that 30-foot setback at the front and bring the garage out, say it's only going to be 10 foot now, is that in compliance? I mean, it seems like I should be in compliance with that. I'm in here because I'm trying to go 4 foot. I mean, I wouldn't have to go, I wouldn't even have been here if I'm within that.
So, you know, we don't generally give out sort of advice, but
Kelly, first question, because Kelly never received the permit request.
do. So if you are behind the 30-foot required front yard setback, then you shouldn't have an issue with any of these things.
Okay.
You could have done this by right and not had to have been here.
Well, that's what I just said. I mean, I'm trying to gain more than what 8 foot's going to give me.
Sure.
Which now I don't even do it. I mean, 8 foot and 16 feet. I mean, I'm not going to, I'm trying to accomplish to put a car in there. Obviously, somebody's got a problem or everybody has a problem with that. And I can't do it. I mean, this is what I'm hearing right now.
Right, but the problem is simply that it doesn't meet the ordinance requirements, and to be granted a variance, you need to have a unique situation with the property that says that you're allowed to not follow the rules when everybody else in that same zoning district does. So, I mean, just by looking at the site plan, moving it to the other side of the house, or there are different configurations that, if you look at your lot, could potentially work within the current regulations of the zoning district.
Okay, well, getting back to the putting the garage on the side of the house or the back, I mean, there is a side yard setback, right? So, again, I'm limited to that 19 foot in the back, and then I've got to cut a new driveway in the curb. And didn't come up, I think Bob said about having room for parking. There's a parking spot being lost on the street. So, I mean, it seems like whatever you do there, I'm causing a problem, and am I back before the board again trying to put a driveway in? I mean, I don't know the rules and regs that well, but
well, driveways, Kelly, do you want to talk a little bit about driveways and side yard setbacks?
Sure, so a setback for a driveway is only 2 feet off of your property line.
no, but do I have a problem cutting a driveway into an existing curb? I mean, I'm taking a parking spot off the street.
You'd have to get, that's a different permit that
Well,
we
no,
don't
is that-
see.
is
That's
that something
a
for
road
the-
opening permit, right?
Does that go before the board, or does that go before the
Not to us.
permitting?
No, so a curb cut permit would be through the Public Works Department. How big is your curb cut now?
My pad's big. I mean,
Not the pad, the curb cut,
what's the curb pad?
the depressed curb.
I've got 80, I mean, going into the driveway?
Yeah, just from the street.
It's probably a car and a half wide. So whatever that is. I mean, it's not
So-
two full cars.
So if you pulled that one out and put it on the other side, you'd be able to go up.
Oh, so I can't keep the one that's there.
You
I'm
could.
just trying to see what I can
possibly.
do, what I can't do.
I'm just saying if you were to move the garage to the other side, where you have much more side yard to work with.
There isn't that much side to work with
There's
there.
24 feet,
That's at the front.
right?
If I go back 20 feet, I'm back to 19 feet.
19, right, sure.
Yeah, so I'm down to 11 feet. You got 8-foot setback.
Okay, so you have an 8 foot, yeah, I mean, you're an R5? Right, so you're
So I'm
allowed to,
I'm 11 foot wide with a garage.
you
That's
have
all I can
19
do.
feet?
If there's 19 feet at the back,
Mm-hmm.
and I take the 8 foot, I got 11 foot wide garage, is what I'm limited to. So I'm just trying to understand what I can do and can't do. So that's what I'm limited to because of that.
You could, I'm sorry, it's late in my,
No, that's all right. I
the
just
math.
trying to understand.
What do we have?
It-
So yeah, so you would have 11 feet, but would you even be going back 24 feet with your garage? But you're not going that far back now.
Why wouldn't I? I mean, like if I'm going to build something, I'm going to make it usable.
But sure, no, you could potentially do that, absolutely.
So I'm limited to 11 by 24 foot. I mean, if we're working with the
I
number.
mean, you could move it up further so that,
And I'm into the 30 foot in the front then.
no, you've got 7 feet to work with, so you could push it out that 7 feet.
Okay, maybe I
Okay.
wasted my time here. It sounds like I can't do what I want to do, and if that's the case. I mean, I didn't think I was asking for that much, and yet it seems like it is.
Any other questions for Michael? Now that you've heard this exchange? No? Ed? Jessica?
No.
Well, we're gonna do a decision at our next hearing. That's the way we do this.
Okay.
So we're not gonna do a decision this evening. But before I close the hearing, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I mean, I want to understand that what I am seeing here is that it doesn't seem like I can go do what I want to do. I mean, that's the impression I'm getting right now. And like you said, the extreme need. Well, 2 years from now, one of us in a wheelchair. So, I mean, so am I back here in 2 years trying to get a variance and I'm more sympathetic? I mean, is that what it comes down to?
Well, I don't think that there's any one type or, we don't have a list of like what hardships work and what don't. It's incumbent upon the applicant to present to us what is so unique about this property that it should be treated differently than other properties in the district. And the biggest, I think for many of us, the idea that the garage is a convenience, but your house already did away with your garage, and now you want to expand into the front yard setback onto an existing driveway, a garage. There are probably 1,000 property owners in Haverford Township who would want to come in and do the same thing because they would like to. The question is, do they have a hardship that gives them a credible claim that they deserve a variance, right? And
So this is a relatively objective process, but Ernie, why don't you tell Michael?
So here's, for a variance to be granted under the law in both that and the zoning code, there are specific elements that an applicant has to meet, the burden the applicant has in order to get the variance. So I'll read you what they are just so you understand. That there is a unique physical condition, a circumstance or condition including irregularity, narrowness, or shallowness of a lot size or shape or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions peculiar to the particular property, and that the unnecessary hardship is due to such condition and not the circumstances or condition generally created by the provisions of this chapter in the neighborhood or district in which the property is located. That because of such physical circumstances or condition, there is no possibility that the property can be developed in strict conformity with the provisions of this chapter, and that the authorization of the variance is therefore necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property. That such unreasonable hardship is not created by the appellant or the applicant, that the variance is, if authorized, will not alter the essential characteristics of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located, nor substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent properties, nor be detrimental to the public health. And then finally, that the variance, if authorized, will represent the minimum variance needed to afford relief and will result in the least modification possible of the regulation in issue. So those are the elements that an applicant has to satisfy when coming before zoning hearing board to be granted a variance. So I just wanted that those are the elements that the board is looking at to say, do you have enough, are you showing enough to say, yes, there's warranting of a variance.
All right. Can I ask you a question? There's no homes being built around there, and they don't seem to be 30 foot off the front. Do they allow, I mean, does the builder have to come in here and do a variance to do that, and you allow it?
If they want to encroach, then they have to come in here.
And yet you'll approve a house? I mean, I just
we-
walked the neighborhood and I thought I saw a couple of houses that went up not that long ago, 2 blocks over, and they don't look like they're 30 feet in. And maybe it's just an optical illusion.
yeah, I mean, if they are not, then they got a variance. Why did they get a variance? It probably depends on each individual case, because as you heard from Ernie, our solicitor, it's what's the peculiar characteristics of each individual property that we have to sort of ask you to tell us about.
All right.
And then we try to apply all those tests.
Yeah. And I didn't try to blow this up to more than it is. I try to tell you what I'm looking for and what I have. So, I mean, I didn't try to embellish something.
We
appreciate that very much.
completely recognize that, Michael.
Yeah.
Full credibility to you coming in and telling it exactly the way it is.
All right.
That's
So-
why we're having this conversation, instead of saying, okay, and now let's vote. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, am I,
but there's no vote been made yet.
Okay.
I-
You want to keep the
so,
So if you want to do a little more research, I can continue this and we can resume at our next meeting.
Why,
It's
no,
up to
what
you.
would I be bringing to the
Well,
table that I already
you
did?
can go on the township web
Yeah,
and you can read
Yeah,
those
and I
criteria,
understand.
And maybe you'll think about your case. I'm not trying to tell you what to do by
Yeah.
any means.
but maybe, yeah.
I'm trying to extend the courtesy
Okay.
mutual courtesy that I think
Well, I
exists here.
appreciate
But-
that. Is
but-
it,
Or we can just close the record and then we'll vote at our next hearing. It's
Okay.
completely, I'll leave it up to you.
yeah, is it a majority vote? How does this
Yes.
work? Okay, all right. All right, well, I mean, I appreciate being here. It's first time around, so I don't know.
Were you aware of the criteria that?
No, I'll
we
look it
just
up.
read
I
through?
didn't know it was that, I mean, I'll go through it and nothing seems to
It's
pertain
a
to
pretty
me.
strict standard
Yeah.
that the board has to follow. you know.
Okay.
I
And,
can't provide you any legal advice, but my suggestion would be that it would be worthwhile to hold the record open. You could certainly not have to present something next time, but if you close the record, you're going to lose the ability to potentially add some additional evidence.
okay, well, thanks.
And
So-
feel free to use Kelly and Marge they have great, they do this all day, every day, and they might have some ideas to help
Okay,
you.
and who is that? Okay, you're zoning? I am. Okay. I'm not really into politics here, so I don't know who's who. We lived here, like I said, for 42 years, but, well, thanks for your
And
time.
we don't usually have this much interaction. We ask questions.
Oh, why?
It is what it is.
Well, thank
Close
you.
the case and then we vote. But
Okay.
You have our full attention tonight.
Well, I know, nobody's here. But, well, thanks again, and I'll get on and see what's in there, and so what, is another hearing in 2 weeks, is that what? Okay. And,
I would do it anyway,
Okay.
just to put it on
do I
record.
get notified, or I just show up? What,
definitely no
am I ready?
It's same time, 7:45, October 20, here.
Okay. All right, well, thanks again for your time and information.
Thank you.
All right, see you, Marge, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
before we continue this case, I'm going to ask if there anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, anyone present that received regular mail, any other residents of Haverford Township. With that, we'll continue this case to our next regularly scheduled meeting on
October 20.
October 20th.
All right, good night, thank you.
Good night.
Ed, minutes?
Yes. We had minutes prepared and distributed for September 1st. I'd like to make a motion that we approve those as distributed and revised.
I'll second that.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are moved. Anything else? Any other administrative matters? No? And we are adjourned.